Soon. I'll see you afterwards. Thanks for tracking me down too. Rotarians and guests, welcome to the December 2nd meeting of the Rotary Club of York. Our members are dedicated to service above self and Rotary's four-way test. Leading our opening song and pledge today is past President Brian Tate, and delivering our invocation is Eric Chase. Brian.
Rotarians, please don't join me. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you prepare yourself in a way that you're most accustomed for prayer? Let us pray. Creator God, just as you gave wisdom to Moses to appoint leaders among the Israelites, you blessed our founders with the wisdom to divide our country into individual states. You have empowered our governors and state legislators to make laws and policies which manage our daily lives and make our lives safe and protect us. We pray for our governors and all of our state, national, and world leaders. Please give strength and wisdom to them, guide their decisions, that they may always put your love first. Surround them with people from all walks of life and many backgrounds. Bring to them people of high moral character and spiritual maturity. As we look to our governors for assurance and guidance, especially during times of crisis, inspire them and speak through them. We pray for our communities and our world, our speaker today, our club and members, our families and loved ones, and we pray for ourselves. We express our abundant gratitude for the many blessings in our own lives, and we ask for your blessings on this food, this meeting, the hands that have prepared and served it, and that we may use this food to nourish our bodies, to strengthen them in an effort to continue to place service above self. Keep us safe and keep us well. Amen.
I like the shirt, Eric. 2 thumbs. Yeah, baby. Thank you, Brian and Eric. And Eric wearing that shirt reminded me of the fact that with Michael joining us today, representing state governor, that Governor Wolf, former member of our club, his mother was the first female board chair of the United Way of York County. Governor Wolf was board chair of the United Way of York County, and he donates his entire salary to the United Way of York County and other United Ways throughout this community. So Governor Wolf, Michael, please share our appreciation for his generational generosity to community support. So that was an unplanned announcement. But we have several announcements for you today, and we have a special guest with us, and that is Miss Madison Summers. She is daughter of past President Mike and President-elect Jackie. For 2 years, Madison worked for the Broadway League as Communication and Governmental Affairs Coordinator. So as you can imagine, Broadway went dark, and like so many of our young folks impacted by the pandemic, she's back home in New Freedom with mom and dad. Well, the theme for Rotary International is Rotary opens opportunities. And like Mike and Jackie, I too, my husband Ted and I are empty nesters that have welcomed our fledglings back. So an interesting way to get brain gain for our community. But Madison is attending Harvard and getting her master's degree. So that's an opportunity to enjoy that from home. So we wish you the best. We know you had an exciting stint at the Big Apple, and it's a transition coming back to the Little Apple of York. But we welcome you to the club, and also encourage other folks that may have formerly been empty nesters and fledglings are back home to have them join our club, either virtually with you in the comfort of your home or here at the country club. We hope that those who logged in early today enjoyed our new format and the offering of fellowship that came our way as our transition to the Zoom format. So thanks a lot to Courtney and Ben and other folks who were involved with making that transition. It seems like Zoom is the way of the world. Congratulations to fellow Rotarians David Hogue, Bobby Simpson. Dave and Bobby were recognized by the Central Penn Business Journal as 2020 Icon Honor Award winners. The virtual award ceremony will be held on December 15th. And also to Frank Countess. Frank was honored as the Outstanding Alumnus of the Year by Leadership York. Congratulations, gentlemen. The reduced capacity here at the Country Club Ballroom is now at 28, so please get your reservations in quickly. The Past Presidents Committee will meet today at 1:15, and that's a hybrid meeting via Zoom, and some of us are here in the attending the meeting. A reminder, please support Lend a Hand's Holiday Angel Project. The gift should be delivered here to the Country Club at a meeting by January 2nd. And cash donations may be made with charitable donations button on the club's website. See Jeff Vermillion today to donate or with any questions. We have a poll for you, and only virtual members will be able to vote in the poll. So those folks here live and in person can raise a poll to indicate what your preference is or what you did. Oh, we already have the results. Oh, not yet. Okay. So the poll is with Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Sunday, and Cyber Monday reporting sales of $39 billion in the U.S. Did you shop or make a purchase in person, online, catalog, or mail, or not at all? So online. A lot of onliners here. Okay. We'll see what our virtual membership is delivering.
Yeah, it looks like the majority of people said online, about 58%. In person was 6%. The smallest category was catalog and mail, 2%. Did not shop at all, 34%. So most people shopped online, and looks like a lot of people didn't shop at all.
34%. I don't know. That sounds like Ebenezer Scrooge there. And a small percent went retro with the catalog and mail. So next up, thanks Ben, and thanks everybody for that, is our Biz Spotlight. Just happen to have Matt Calabretta. Let me borrow his little sign here. The Calabretta Group at Morgan Stanley. Their mission statement is providing tailored financial solutions to help simplify your life. As their clients' wealth grows, so do the complexities and resources needed to manage it. They have a team of seasonal professionals. The Calabretta Group works with individuals, families, business owners, and entrepreneurs who value their depth of knowledge and experience in providing tailored financial solutions to achieve important goals. The Calabretta Group is committed to providing objective, high-quality finance advice and services to help simplify life while adding meaningful value for their clients. They seek to accomplish this through building trust and developing strategies to help protect and grow generational wealth. The Calabretta Group believes thoughtful financial planning means more than providing investment advice. It means strengthening the financial independence It means striving to ensure the means to pursue what's important. And it means understanding individuals' unique goals, values, and circumstances to develop effective strategies. Their comprehensive wealth management services include a long list. Some of those are retirement, financial, and estate planning expertise, 401k rollovers, strategies, fixed income strategies, and certainly in this time when community needs are great, philanthropy services. The Calabretta Group's core values include a commitment to client success. They provide solutions and strive to be a trusted resource for any financial or life decision. How have they been impacted during COVID-19? During the pandemic, the most difficult thing for their team has been not being able to meet directly with their wonderful clients. Through technology, they've been able to stay in close contact with clients. Their clients have relied heavily upon their expertise as the markets went into a tailspin earlier this year. Focusing on clients' long-term goals, they help clients remain calm and navigate this volatile market in a very objective manner. Thanks, Matt, for providing that information. And next, I'd like to ask past President Mike Summers to introduce our speaker today. And just an alert in regard to your questions, this is a nuance with our change to the Zoom format. With Zoom, our virtual audience, your questions need to be addressed in the chat window, and we, meaning Ben and the mouse in his pocket, will be monitoring those during the presentation. So virtual attendees submit by typing the question and either sending to everyone or to host. Thank you very much. Past President Mike.
Thank you, President Ann. I'm very excited about our speaker today, and I think everybody will get a lot out of his talk. Our speaker, Michael Newsome, is the embodiment of the American dream, starting with limited means, showing resilience and tenacity, embracing education, and reaching success through hard work. Michael was raised by a single mom in a poor section of Hampton, Virginia, and he started working at age 11 for lunch money and to help his mom with bills. Michael could easily have ended up trapped in a poverty cycle. Michael went to a segregated junior high. He had good teachers, and he was a good student, and he excelled in math. As he was preparing to go into high school in the 10th grade, the schools of Hampton were desegregated. Michael worked hard to bridge the now integrated schools between the white and black student population, getting involved in a multitude of school activities while excelling in his studies. Ultimately, he landed a full academic scholarship to Lafayette College to study economics and finance. Today, Michael Newsome is the senior member of Governor Tom Wolf's administration and brings nearly 4 decades of private sector experience to his current role as Secretary of the Governor's Office of the Administration. Michael oversees enterprise functions of human resources, information technology, equal employment opportunity, continuity of government, and record management for nearly 80,000 employees. Newsome is the former Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the Wolf Organization, former Controller of the York Daily Record, and held various positions with Armstrong World Industries. Michael and his wife, Alois, lives in West Manchester Township, and he has been active in our community, serving or having served on a multitude of boards, including the York County Community Foundation, Memorial Health System Foundation, Crispus Attucks Charter School, York County Industrial Development Authority, and the York County Heritage Trust, among others. Following his election in 2014, Governor Wolf tapped Newsome to serve on the State Liquor Control Board. And then in 2019, Wolf asked Newsome to take over the Office of Administration within the executive branch. As a longtime business person with no prior public service experience, Newsome says working for the Wolf administration has been eye-opening, but perhaps not in the ways you may assume. Today, Newsome will talk about his time in state government and how his background as a business person, citizen, taxpayer guides his approach to leadership. Fellow Rotarians and guests, both here and virtually, please warmly welcome Secretary Michael Newsome.
It is afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting me. This is kind of surreal to me. I don't mind telling you, I've spent many, many years in York and never joined the York Rotary. And you might question that at this point, but the main reason was I thought I never had the time to come and spend about an hour and a half each day, especially when we had all the things going on. But I always admired this group, and I have such great things to say about you today. And I hope we have a fun time together. So, but the first thing I want to say is thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you, Ann, and all of you for allowing me to speak before you today. I'd love to know who else is listening, because I've spoken to a number of groups virtually over the last 8 months, and it's difficult. But I like this because at least I have eyes to look into, and just get some reaction to some of the things that I'm going to say today. But Mike, your words have been very kind, but not only here, but also through your emails that we've shared emails over the past few weeks and months. And, you've done a pretty good job of flattery, I must say. And I see that you need to have effusive praise to get people to come before this group on a weekly basis. I know that because you have here business owners and business executives. You have nonprofit executive directors and lawyers and doctors and financial planners and all types of professions. I'm guessing you don't have any ordinary folk in this group. That's what I thought. So each of you is somebody. That's why I appropriately labeled this talk. I normally don't give labels to my talks, but this one I'm labeling the Nobody Secretary. Now, throughout my career, whenever someone asked me what I did for a living, I would say something like, I'm in accounting or finance or something like that, whatever came to my mind first. And it was just something that always, I just never really said things about what I actually did. So we were just talking at lunch today about the number of years my wife and I have been together. Well, after many, many, many years, I bet it took her 25 or 30 years. She's just had enough. And she just wanted to know, why don't you ever tell people that you are a manager at a Fortune 500 company? Why don't you tell them that you are, the controller of the local newspaper or an executive in the Wolf Organization? Why don't you ever use your title? And if you know me, you know my relationship with my wife is very sweet and dear. So I just brought her close to me and I said, hey, dear, I don't want people to know me for what I do. I want people to know me for who I am. Which brings me to a story. And I am so full of stories, I will try not to take up your whole day here with stories. But when I officially retired, and I use that word officially, retired 5 years ago, I had a conversation at dinner right here at the CCY, right across the hall here in the Donald Ross Lounge. And I'll leave the names out to protect the innocent, so you don't have to worry about that. The names aren't that important anyway. But so when I officially retired, I had a conversation at dinner. Someone invited me, a friend of mine here invited me to have dinner. And at that dinner, I was innocently called a nobody. Now, we joke about it today, but his idea was when you retire, you give up your position, you give up your power, your identity. Thus, you become a nobody. Now, the rest of the evening was very, very interesting, as you can imagine. And I don't have time to elaborate. But suffice to say that I have never identified myself by position or status in life. retirement was not an issue for me. In fact, I was pretty much enjoying retirement. I even had some difficulty with the secretary title in the beginning when I first arrived in Harrisburg. Let me give you another story, a related story to this. My wife and I were at a market in Baltimore. And I don't dress like this, believe it or not, all the time. And people don't know who I am again. Even if they ask it, they may not know who I am. But we're at this market and we were waiting our place in line. When our time came to place an order, out of nowhere, this individual came up. He stepped in front of us and placed his order. And after he was finished, I was kind of taken aback, but I just waited. And the conversation went something like this, exactly like this. Excuse me, sir, we were next. And he was quick, his answer was quick. He says, I don't see anyone. And before I could respond to it, he continued. He said, I don't like your kind, and I don't like you. Okay, I guess that was another attempt of trying to make me into a nobody. Well, I just made one step closer to him, and I looked him into his eyes, and I said with a smile, if you were to get to know me, you would love me. And my wife just was floored. She just did not know what to do. So that's my introduction. So with that introduction, let's fast forward to Harrisburg and being a secretary in Harrisburg. Now, one of the first opportunities I had as being a secretary was before the House Appropriations Committee. And I was asked to introduce myself. I wasn't expecting that. I was ready to talk about everything else. I spent weeks preparing for this meeting. Introduce yourself. And my response was, even surprised me, but this is what was deep in my heart. I said, I am a citizen and a taxpayer in the Commonwealth first. And I now happen to be a secretary. Now, I didn't elaborate at the time, but I was making the point that my actions and decisions would be informed by my experiences as a citizen and a taxpayer. And I would do the things that I thought I should do to help make government better, which is what you would do if you were in this position. I wanted to be true to myself, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget where I came from, if you will, as a citizen and a taxpayer. Now, truth be told, when the governor asked me to take this job, I was basically clueless as to what I was getting myself into. Now, I spent a few years on the Liquor Control Board, and that was simply an extension of my career. I mean, I did financial planning, and I did strategic planning, and generating profits. So that's what I did for 39 years. So the numbers speak for themselves at the Liquor Control Board. I don't know if you follow those, but we nearly doubled the profit at the Liquor Control Board within 3 years. And I worked with some great people and two other board members. One, Tim Holden, who was a US Congressman for 20 plus years, and Mike Negra, who was the only Republican, a very dedicated Republican on the Liquor Control Board. But becoming Secretary of Administration, not so much experience. But the caveat was that my former boss and friend, Governor Wolf, called, and he wanted me in this position, but I really needed to know what he wanted me to accomplish. So we spent some time talking about that. Now, my experience with Tom Wolf, as my direct supervisor for a handful of years, and my overwhelming respect for him still made the decision very, very difficult. But I knew one thing about him, and I had a conversation when he decided to run for governor, and I knew exactly why he was running for governor, why he's now governor, and his willingness to give back to the people of Pennsylvania. And it's evidenced, as Ann just said earlier, by the fact that he has chosen not to accept a salary or any of the benefits for that matter. And I can tell you stories about that. And I've had conversations with him about that for his entire time in office. So I decided to become part of his administration and his ongoing efforts to transform government. I decided to become somebody again. So now time does not allow me to talk about all the things that we've done in the administration, the things that the governor has completed, the things that we've done over the last few years. However, I can give you a few things just to kind of whet your appetite for the types of things that we've done just in the last 2 years since I've been secretary. Number one, we've made it easier for citizens to apply for jobs in government. Now, official control over civil service hiring moved to the Office of Administration in late 2018, just prior to my arrival. And it was done by legislation. Before the change, we had 2 systems for hiring. And let me just run through this so you can understand what we were up against. The 2 systems for hiring, Civil Service Commission and the Office of Administration. We had 2 different websites depending on the type of job that you wanted. You applied for not for a specific job, but for a category of jobs. You scheduled an appointment to take an exam at only 7 locations throughout the entire Commonwealth. For example, if you lived in New York, you had to go to Harrisburg to take an exam. Then you waited for the test results to come back to your home by U.S. postage. And then you waited for a job to open in the category that you selected. This sometimes took up to a full year, and we lost many, many talented people because they refused to go through this cumbersome process. Just in my last 2 years, we have changed the application process. We've made it easier. We have a single website now for all positions. We've revamped the tests and the test-taking process. We've made it easier for potential employees to enter experience and training to compete for specific job vacancies. Isn't that a novel idea? Increase the number of physical locations for taking these tests. We allow for online computerized test taking now, as well as we've improved access for people with disabilities. In fact, we just received a letter yesterday from the U.S. Department of Education, just basically the best that they can say to us. I guess they don't get really effusive in their praise. They simply just said, you passed. and there are tests and making sure that people with disabilities can navigate through your website. We help them earn government positions. We've hired diversity coordinators. We've reorganized human resources to support hiring for all types of talent. And now, believe it or not, we communicate through things like email and text messages instead of using the U.S. postage. Now, we've learned, just in this one example I'm giving you of government inefficiency, we learned that it was not the people, it's the system. Because the people are great. They are dedicated. They're committed to making government work better, more efficiently, more cost effectively, and faster. They were looking for these types of changes. It just needed someone to push these changes along. Number 2, Governor Wolf has introduced better customer service to government. Now, just like at the Wolf Organization, where we provided great service to customers, suppliers, and employees alike. In Harrisburg, that approach has led us to begin the process to transform our service to citizens and to each other. Now, through our information technology team and through the governor's office, they have an office of performance through excellence. We are implementing a customer service transformation in government, making it easier to do business with government. Now, this includes making it easier to interact with government through a single online portal, which will allow citizens access to all government services. This involves agencies sharing data and access heretofore not characteristic of government. Through a secure credential, called Keystone ID. Citizens will be able to access their personal data. They will register for new businesses, for example, pay your fees through PennDOT, or pay your taxes through the Department of Revenue, and so much more. And we even have a novel idea of asking you to help us improve our services, and then we listen to you. This is a major undertaking that requires cooperation across the entire Commonwealth, but it is an imperative to make government more accessible and user-friendly. Number 3, we have spent an inordinate amount of time on COVID-19 mitigation. As you can imagine, this pandemic has changed much of how we view government. Our agency, which Mike just indicated, has a responsibility of continuity of government, such as determining when we must close government buildings during emergencies, weather emergencies and others. We had a building burn down last year. So we have to make the decision and make sure that agencies are able to adjust to these emergencies. So our continuity of government office ensures agencies are prepared for these types of situations so they can continue to perform the essential services for citizens of Pennsylvania. So there was no question, we were all challenged when Governor Wolf announced the stay-at-home order last March. Our HR and IT teams met the challenge. They supported the shutdown going on. Well, we're going into 9 months now. We launched new websites. Websites for businesses, also for employees. We created new policies and provided information to assist with the care and education of children at home. One example, we set up hotspots on school buses for underserved neighborhoods so that the kids could have internet access so that they could do their remote learning. And we've done so much to ensure that we were able to operate government and you're able to survive in this type of environment. All of the travel restrictions that have come out, our office puts those policies together and make sure we communicate them throughout the entire Commonwealth. And teleworking, tremendous challenge. We had tens of thousands of employees that are teleworking, and they were told with a day's notice that they had to go home and start teleworking. And we have a number of folks that are still in the offices. So we have to make sure policies and procedures are in place as they continue to work in our offices every day. So let me transition a little bit and talk a little bit on a personal level with you. So one of the things I thought about, and my wife and I spent a lot of time talking about going to Harrisburg and being a secretary in the governor's administration. One of the things I decided to do was I made a vow that I would stay as distant as possible from politics. And very difficult to do, of course. However, if I had chosen to break that vow, I would have approached every legislator that I encountered to stop all forms of voter suppression. Now, some of you, maybe not in this room, but if you're listening, will remember that I ranted about voter suppression even when I was the chairman of the board of the York County Community Foundation. Probably was out of line that day when I was sitting in that seat talking about voter suppression, but it was something that I thought was very, very hard to take. And some of you defended voter suppression at that time. And perhaps some of you still do. I haven't changed on my opinion. I still think it's unpatriotic, it's un-American, it's just shameful. It doesn't move us forward, it continues to take us backward. Now, the disruptions in PA voting recently, this recent election that we encountered is a great example. The legislature's refusal to allow us to canvass or prepare these mail-in ballots prior to the election day put Pennsylvania in an unnecessary national spotlight. And this could have been completely avoided. And it's good I stay out of politics. So, Keita, let me get out of that. So anyway, one thing I didn't vow against, if I may use this double negative, was being a Black man in this job. I can't shy away from that, of course, which is why I contacted Governor Wolf regarding the continued killing of Black people all around this country, in particular in light of the public killing of George Floyd and other recent killings of unarmed Black men and women for that matter. I just happen to have a history of being Black in America. I have 2 Black sons. I now have 2 Black grandsons. And I have a major concern about systemic racism in this country. Now, shortly after arriving in Harrisburg, many employees, I could hardly go to lunch, get to my lunch, in fact, and many employees approached me to discuss employment issues and concerns with multiple systems of filing and managing harassment complaints. So we set up a task force to review the situation, and it resulted in centralization of this function under my office. We handle equal employment opportunity complaints. We handle Americans with disabilities, ADA, religious, and other types of accommodations. And under our office, and we're now able to provide consistent service across the entire Commonwealth. And we have an ambitious goal, which folks maybe it's too ambitious or too idealistic, is that maybe we eliminate this office over time because we can greatly reduce these complaints that are coming through. But indeed, we want to settle any of these cases within 90 days. And that's the charge that we have for them. So currently, also members of the cabinet and members of other agencies are working with the governor to address and combat systemic racism in government. And one particular group that I'm working on now is called Countering and Combating Systems of Oppression. And I mentioned voter suppression before, which is a form of systemic racism. Voter ID laws and limits on access to voting and other such restrictions on voting disproportionately impact Black and brown folks. As a citizen, I'm fighting to make it easier to vote, not harder. And as a secretary, I have the governor's ear to help in this regard. Additionally, the pandemic has disproportionately affected Black and brown folks. My Office of Administration has a job of constantly communicating with employees the importance of what everybody's doing, wearing masks and washing your hands and social distancing, among so many other requirements. Now, we communicate with employees. I report to the governor every week. We communicate about 12 times a week, maybe every 2 weeks, to our employees on a number of items. So as a citizen like you, I want to go to my favorite restaurants again, right? Like you, I want to visit my family and friends again, but I choose not to do that right now. Personally, I just don't do it. We need to be safe. My family needs to be safe. Your family needs to be safe, because this pandemic, again, disproportionately affects Black and brown and older people. And contrary to popular belief, I actually fit in the older people category as well. So we have to be very concerned about that. But I wanted to be here in person. So I made the sacrifice because I wanted to see some of you again. I was hoping I would see the entire group, but I understand that the governor has restrictions on all of this. So as I wind down here, in conclusion, because I wanted to talk about the government employee, because before I went to Harrisburg, I had major concerns about what I thought the government employee was all about. So what I found, and I've been there for 5 years now, what I encountered is a group of employees who are, for the most part, paid less than what they can command in the private sector. They are committed to their craft. They work hard to upgrade systems, improve processes, and reorganize the workplace to meet the challenges that we all now face and we anticipate will continue to face in the short-term and long-term distant future. Of course, you call me right now. And so anyway, Governor Wolf has 2 years left. And recently he has said, don't plan on recognizing the normal lame duck period. We are all committed to continuing to make all of as many of the necessary changes as we can to benefit the citizens of Pennsylvania right up to the last day. And we need people like you. We need Yorkers like you, the somebodies of York, to support us. So again, thank you for inviting me, and I guess I'm now available for questions or whatever. I appreciate it, and you guys have been very attentive, so thank you for inviting me. Do I just stay up here then? And okay.
Secretary Newsome, we have a question from one of our virtual audience members. Will your office have any role in the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available to the state?
Should I repeat the question? Okay. The question is, does my office have any role in the distribution of the vaccine? The short answer is no, not in the actual distribution. That would be Dr. Levine and the Department of Health. And she is on the same COVID-19 task force that reports to the governor on a weekly basis. And in fact, I was just on that call before coming in here. The plan is already in place. She certainly has mentioned how that vaccine is going to be distributed and when it's going to be distributed. She's even has the number of vaccines that are actually going to, well, the estimated number that will be distributed starting in this month and moving right into January and February. But the longer answer is, of course, my office has to communicate that throughout the Commonwealth to all the employees. So again, we are the Governor's Office of Administration, so anything that comes out, most things that come out of the Governor's Office, non-political, will come through our office, and we have to report to our employees. Yes.
Michael, could you maybe address shift through COVID and what maybe the silver linings may be coming out of this as far as how perhaps the state government functions?
You mean some of the changes that we made?
Well, just, obviously you have many more people working remotely, and so government's gonna look probably different coming out of this. I doubt they're all gonna go back.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So the question is, what kinds of things or changes will we make post-pandemic? In fact, as you can imagine, we had a task force to look at that as well. And we expect a number of things. There's simple things, but we are not allowed to print anything at home. Well, in fact, we can't upload or download any government files into personal computers or anything. We all have our own, the government issued laptops and cell phones, for example. And so we're not allowed to print anything. And what we learned, of course, is there's a lot of paper that we're saving, right? And lots of people are saying, hey, why are we printing all of this stuff anyway? So one of the simple things coming out of this will be a great reduction in the amount of paper that's flying around. We have virtual meetings now. People who have been traveling all over the Commonwealth to go to meetings. Well, we learned through Zoom and Skype and now Microsoft Teams, we can just like today, we can talk to people. So we'll save a lot of money in travel costs and other expenses related to meetings. So yeah, those are the simple things to do. Teleworking, I have an IT staff that they're very, very, very efficient teleworking. And so I'm guessing that a great number of them will continue to telework on a permanent basis after this. HR, not so much. I mean, we'd like to keep that H in the HR. But IT folks, yeah, I think they would spend a lot of time at home. Just a couple examples. Yes.
Secretary, with your Keystone ID system, you used to vote by phone?
The short answer to that, I think, will be, I'm sorry, the question is, will the Keystone ID allow us to vote by phone? I can probably say with a lot of certainty, a resounding no. I think we have enough issues right now, even with just the paper ballots and what people voting at the. I've questioned that. I've talked about it. I don't think that we, from a legislative standpoint, have any appetite for that at this point. But we are doing some other things. We're working on some other things that you may be able to do by phone. And like many of you, I have more than one vehicle, but I only have one driver's license, right? So, and I don't carry my wallet with me most of the time. I just have that wallet in my main car. Well, if I'm driving with my wife, I find out I'm 5 miles away from home and I don't have my driver's license. Well, we'd like to be able to have a driver's license on your cell phone. So electronic driver's license. That's one of the things that we're talking about. We're also talking about electronic license plates. Now, that's a controversial type of thing because, you know, then we can scan license plates. We think it might be helpful in a lot of cases, but it's also an invasion of privacy, a lot of people saying. So we're certainly analyzing a lot of things, but voting right now, it's more basically comes through the legislature, and that's probably not something we're going to tackle in the next couple of years. Yes.
What has been the most surprising aspect of your transition from private to public sector?
What is the most surprising aspect of my transition from private to the public sector? I think I just said it. I don't know what you think about government workers, but I just went in with thinking that my job was going to be really, really difficult getting through to the people. And that was the biggest surprise. And I learned that very, very early with the Liquor Control Board, a tremendous set of executives. And of course, they were generating profit. They were $2.5 billion business enterprise owned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I would say my biggest surprise is how dedicated the people are, how committed they are, and how many people I've talked to and say, hey, you know, you could probably make twice what you're making here. And they respond like, this is my duty to the Commonwealth, very much like the governor. And that was a big surprise to me. Yes.
Michael, as a bit of a follow-up to that, I agree with your comment about the problem not being the quality of the people. The problem is the systems, and that's what makes it so difficult to get things done. What has to be done to make dramatic, not just incremental, but dramatic improvement in the system so that people can have more positive impact?
Great question. What has to be done to the systems to make a more positive impact on the Commonwealth? Time. And the reason I say that is we have a number of legacy systems, and particularly the IT systems have been around. In fact, just yesterday, we retired a legacy system for tax modernization. And that system had been around for, they told me it was developed 15 or 20 years ago. And that's the way we were paying our taxes and processing taxes. And we were our IT department group just retired that system. And now you're able to have much more modern tax processing. And you'll see that when you file your taxes and so forth. We have a lot of redundant systems. And as I said, one of the comments I made, maybe it slipped by real quick, that agencies are now working together and accessing data and services among them, each other. Well, in the past, and I don't know how and what's distant past, but in the past, agencies didn't really talk to each other as much. They created their own system. So we may have one system that's duplicated 20 times throughout the Commonwealth. So one of the goals we have is to bring all those systems in under one. I'll give you a great example. When we went into teleworking, we had 3 or 4 different VPNs. These are virtual private network systems that keep all of our data within the Commonwealth's network. And when we had problems trying to, different employees on different VPNs trying to talk to each other. Well, about 5 weeks ago, we retired the other systems, and now we just have one VPN that everybody's on, and it's much more stable. So yes, it's going to take time. It's going to take dedicated effort on an administration's part to continue the work that Governor Wolf has been doing. And so people like myself coming in from the private sector, knowing that an ERP system, for example, is extremely necessary to run an enterprise such as the government. We have to have like-minded people hired into these positions moving on. I think one of the biggest problems with government, of course, is the constant turnover. Now, I happen to be a proponent of term limits, so I know it sounds like, you know, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but the turnover is a problem from a worker standpoint, from an administrative standpoint. I'll leave the argument on the legislative side to someone else, but the turnover, because in 2 years I'm walking away and there may be another secretary that comes in that may not have the same kind of approach that we have to improving systems. It's a tough one because the secretaries change over so often. But it's a great question, which we are dealing with. We're trying to do as much as we can while we're there. Yes.
Used to be we could use our Pennsylvania driver's license to get on a plane. Today we can't. Is there something there that's going to change? Are we continuing to have a driver's license that doesn't conform?
I don't have my wallet. It's in my car. But I can tell you, you can use your driver's license to get on a plane. Those driver's licenses, the government required us to change over our driver's licenses by, I think it was November of this year, but because of the pandemic, they extended that requirement. But I was able to get mine changed over because my license expired in February, so I was, or whenever, and I was able to switch it over. But yes, I would guess many of others in this room have the new, what is it called, the new Real ID. So if you just go and get a Real ID, which you can do today.
And that works for everything in Pennsylvania.
It's required across the entire, it's good across the entire nation. So if you don't have a Real ID with your driver's license, you don't have to wait until it expires, by the way. You can do it now. But that's a good question. Yes.
One last question, Secretary Newsome. I'm combining two here. What's it like to be part of the leadership team at a larger level working through the pandemic? How often does the cabinet meet, and what are those meetings like?
Okay, I'm sorry, the first question was?
What's it like being part of the leadership team navigating through the pandemic?
Fascinating. It is. What's it like being a part of the leadership team? It's fascinating to be right on the front lines. It's also frustrating. And one of the frustrating parts of it, of course, is folks who think that it's a personal decision whether to abide by the suggestions of wearing a mask and washing hands and social distancing and all of that. That's the frustrating part. But to watch the governor operate the way he does, we were talking about that a little at lunch, that he has remained resolute. I wouldn't say calm. I'm sure he's churning under the desk, but he's above the table. He's very, very calm and deliberate about what he wants us to do. We meet every 2 weeks as a cabinet, and he went a part of the Wolf organization, but he runs it like I'm so used to seeing him run these meetings. Everyone participates. Everyone is required to report in. We have an agenda, just like many of the meetings you have, and that agenda is followed. And then we have an open session where folks are allowed to come up with any new business or whatever. But he runs it like a business, and we like that because many folks weren't used to that, seeing how an business executive runs basically a board meeting. So I kind of pinch myself every now and then and ask myself, well, what am I doing here? And then of course I know why I'm there, because I've spent so much time with the governor. He and I are kind of pretty close in personality and demeanor. So thank you for that question. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Secretary Newsome. We appreciate your willingness to join us in person today. And thank you so much for bringing your financial acumen, your strategic background, and your business expertise to our entire Commonwealth, to those 80,000 employees, our citizens, and the $2.5 billion enterprise that is state government. You clearly are somebody, and thank you for all the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears that you give to our Commonwealth. And thanks for your passion for being a voting access advocate. We hope you have happy holidays. We have a book donation in honor of your visit to our club today, and there's a book plate and a marker over there we ask you to sign. We will donate this to the Crispus Attucks Daycare and Early Learning Center Library. And this is a very special book because the author is Cynthia Stevens Donnelly, Tom Donnelly's wife. And the illustrator is Hannah Stevens, and that is Tom and Cindy's niece. So, you know, you could have reacted like this in this way. The book is called, "Oh, I'm So Angry," when that gentleman was clearly rude and racist to you. But thank you for speaking life and putting positivity and love out there in response to that hate. Next week, our speaker is Rotarian Dr. Silas Chamberlain, who will discuss the York County Economic Alliance 10-year action plan to align strategies, goals, and objectives across our country to best position our community for success. And for our virtual members, it was nice to see some of the faces on the screen. Remember to log in early to visit with your fellow Rotarians at 11:30 next Wednesday. And before we get to our closing song, I'd really like to wish my deepest sympathy to all the Ravens fans out there. You're going down today. Of course, this afternoon, because of the tree lighting, we have our priorities as a country in the wrong place. But since it's December 2nd, the closing song is Bare Naked Ladies and Sarah McLachlan with God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Have a great week. Thank you.